Well,
all right, commissioners, it's 2:15. Everybody ready?
yep.
Ready.
All right. Well, good afternoon. We'll call to order our budget workshops for the afternoon of October 19th, 2022. We'll begin just handing it over to Jen Byerly to get us started and work us through the process today.
Hi, commissioners. Hi, Peter. I'll go ahead and share my screen as we've been doing for these budget workshops. Okay, so here is the maintenance level budget as of today, 10/19. And we'll go down to OPD, Office of Public Defense. And they are right here. Currently, their 2023 estimated revenue is $240,767. Their estimated salaries and benefits are $873,192. Estimated operating at this time, $402,841, for total expenditures estimated at $1,276,033. They have 8 full-time employees, and their current policy level requests are $194,129. And I'll let you take over from here, Peter.
Yeah, the policy level increases basically boil down to increases in the contract and off-contract amounts that we're paying to our attorneys. I can tell you that our contract attorney has sent us a letter, provided a copy of that to Mr. Neary, that basically says that he requires this in order to go forward, and there's no one else that's contract worthy. But the issue is really one of caseload. Where Hoquiam Municipal Court, he's getting $315 a case. Aberdeen Municipal Court, he's getting $267 a case. Grace Harbor District, $400 a case with an additional $800 bonus for trial and $250 for argument. We're paying $198 a case for district and a little bit more than that for superior. And that isn't measuring up to Grace Harbor. That isn't measuring up to Clallam County, which pays out very similarly to Grace Harbor at $400 a case for district, $1,000 a case for superior. Pacific and Waukegan counties are paying hourly for all of their stuff, and they pay whatever the attorneys bill them, which goes between $100 and $200 an hour. And so even if I don't talk about, the big dogs in the room, which is Kitsap and Thurston, we're still competing with counties that surround us that pay significantly more than we currently do right now. We're not matching up with the market rates, and that has left it very, very difficult both for contract and off-contract attorneys. And the problem is really the same between the two PLRs. It's just different amendments. For comparison, in 2012, before I came over here, so this is 10 years ago, in Ferry County District Court, I was getting $75 an hour. And right now we pay our district court attorneys $50 an hour. We pay our investigators $45 an hour. So the difference between a 40-hour training class and a high school diploma and 7 years of college education and a bar exam is $5 an hour between those two things right now. And so it's really not, we're not competitive at all. And remember, the defense attorneys are capped. So it's not just a matter of taking ours in addition to some other counties. Any given defense attorney only has X amount of cases that they can take. And so they're looking at this from a perspective of, do I take Mason counties, or do I take Grace Harbor, or do I take Clallam, or do I take Pacific, or do I take Lewis? And they're all doing the math that, well, every case they take here is less money they're going to make because they could have taken that case somewhere else. There's an abundance of cases. There's not an abundance of public defense capable of attorneys. And so both of these PLRs are here to bring us up to a competitive level with what we're seeing in those other counties.
Peter, I guess from the jump, I mean, I would look at these as at a minimum necessary, but at what point, do we have that conversation about adding a staff attorney?
We don't.
Okay.
And the reason we don't is this is for largely conflict work.
Okay.
And so as soon as we put them on staff, we can't have them take conflict cases and we need someone else to do these. And so this isn't something that we can cover by having staff, because the moment we put them on the staff, they can't take these cases.
Peter, can you define for me conflict cases and what does that mean?
Yeah, so a conflict case is a case where the classic one is there are co-defendants. And so there are two people that are alleged to have committed this crime. And it is in the interest of both of those people to accuse the other one, saying, oh no, I didn't have anything to do with it. It's all this guy. Right. In that case, I can't have two attorneys working in the same office with access to the same case management system and communicating through the same, legal assistance, phone systems, everything, arguing that the other guy's client is the guilty party, right?
Yeah.
I can't have say that we have confidential information here on a client, and we know how dishonest they are, and we have reports on how dishonest they are, but they're a witness in someone else's case, right? We can't use the confidential information to that other client's advantage. And so we've got to be very careful about cases where the attorneys have a legal conflict of interest and can't represent that client.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
Peter, what do we pay them now?
Right now in Superior Court, we pay $60 an hour. In District Court, we pay $50 an hour. If you do the per hour math on some of the per case stuff you see out of Grace Harbor, Pacific, all of that, they're at roughly $100 to $200 an hour, depending on which county you're looking at. So I have set it to the bottom end of what the surrounding counties have done at $100 an hour for Superior and $75 an hour for District. That's what my ask is. And I think that brings us up to still slightly less than the surrounding counties for District and about the same as the lowest of the surrounding counties for Superior. And so I know it looks like a giant increase, but it looks like a giant increase because we haven't really changed these rates since they were established back in, I think, 2008. And obviously the economy has changed drastically since then. And frankly, with the retirement of most of the baby boom generation, the number of attorneys available has changed drastically since then. And so we're in a much more difficult situation with regards to getting attorneys, and we're paying them less and less every year because we keep it the same.
How many cases do they typically get? So you said that they were set at they could not take more than a certain number of cases. How many cases?
Depends on the type of case. For felonies, it's 12 and a half a month. For District Court, it's 33.3 a month. And there are certain things that can change that. If it's, so an aggravated murder is generally counted as 2 cases instead of 1. Probation violations are generally considered a third of a case, right? Juvenile court cases, I think it's $250 a month for juvie cases, right? So there's a hard cap, but it depends on the number of cases. And of course, if you're mixing and matching your cases, then you have to prorate the whole thing to figure out whether you're in compliance or not.
Right. Right. I know the state hasn't helped us out much on this one either, have they?
No, they haven't. Our state grant is like $50,000 ish, and so it's. I would love to see, frankly, I would love to see the state court. I think this should be all be run through the State Office of Public Defense. I don't think this should be a responsibility of the county at all, because the state is the one that puts all these mandates on us, and then they tell the county to fund it. And so I would love to just see a state office of public defense that has offices much like we have, you know, a DSHS or anything else. But that's outside of my purview.
I did not know that. That's one thing that we're looking at this coming session, but we've been doing that for the past, what, 4 years. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to go and testify to the state legislature if you want someone, but that's about all I can do from my seat.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So Peter, is it something that we could, potentially keep status quo in the budget and then do an amendment for next year? Possibly. Or are you certain that
I'm trying to understand the question.
Like if we kept the budget as it is with the operating at 402,841, and then you think you're going to go over, we could put in an amendment, or are you certain that you're going to
so essentially this would, if we don't approve it now, I would be in a position of I would have two problems, right? One for our contract attorney, which is Sean Tashner, who is a go-to, and having a monthly, even this amount per month is still cheaper than the hourly attorneys, even the amount that's proposed. We have to contract with him to get him for 2023. And this is what he has requested specifically out of his contract. And it's a reasonable amount. And he actually ran those numbers. And so this is what he is willing to accept. I wouldn't be able to engage in that contract or present that contract to the board later this year without knowing that we had the money in the budget for that contract. And so that would be problem one. Problem two is I've got to be able to represent how much I am paying. And if we don't put this into this budget as I've requested it, I don't feel like I would be free to, on my own, say, we're now paying $100 an hour, because that would not have been approved by the commission. And that's not my purview. My purview is to tell you guys, we need to pay $100 an hour for Superior Court, but it's not to go out and do it on my own and then come back and ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And so really the decision point is, can I increase the rates or not? And I think we need to figure that into the budget beforehand, instead of having me come back and ask for an amendment after I do it and screw everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so first comment I want to make is state versus my rear end. County versus it always has been, drives me crazy. Okay, so here's where I'm at on it. This is an issue that I truly believe should have been done and handled in a briefing, not during budget. This is one of those times where it's a little bit backwards. But I do know this. I've been around for a long time with Peter. I've been through some pretty bad stuff, in my opinion, beforehand, but I've never known Peter to give us anything less than a conservative request. As a matter of fact, as I'm looking at this, we may actually need to have a discussion about a supplemental rather than holding it off till the next year to kick in earlier to make sure that we can fulfill the duties that he is required to do now. So although I'm uncomfortable with it and would much rather have a full briefing where I'm looking at the numbers, making decisions based on numbers and documents I have in front of me, my trust in everything he's ever brought in the past would tell me that even when we do that, this is going to be what we come out to. So I would still consider this to be a maintenance. Just ask in the future, I'm not making the decision, Peter. I want to make that clear. I'm just telling my opinion. So if the other commissioners agree to go with it, if something like this comes up, you need to brief us fully before we see it in the budget, in my
Very
opinion,
well.
in the future.
I can do that.
But I truly believe your numbers, with all the years I've been working with you, you're going to be as frugal as possible. And you've never asked me for more than you've actually needed. So I would be supportive of this being considered maintenance. But again, I think we may have to have a discussion. If he can't fulfill the contract because he can't get people in to do the job by the end of the year, we may have to talk about doing something earlier than Jan 1.
It's becoming an issue. Right now I'm beg, borrowing and stealing and trading on personal relationships and doing all of the things you do when you're underpaying people.
Yeah.
And I think if I can tell them that, the commission says it's okay to do this Jan 1, then there will be an interest in keeping my good favor long enough to where I can hold off and start these new rates on Jan 1 and not have to ask for a supplemental. That's my hope, my goal. If it looks like we start needing a supplemental, I'll come back. I'll certainly come back and we can have that conversation.
Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. I actually have, Peter has been talking to me about this for a little while now. And he basically just summed it up in the sense that he felt like he could get through 2022, but definitely looking into 2023, this was necessary. And so I thought that this would be, and I apologize, this is kind of my first budget process with the board, but I thought that this would be the available avenue for Peter to come and present this information to the board. So that is not his fault. That's what I asked him to do. So don't want that to look bad on him.
Well, and I want to make clear, I'm not saying it's wrong. I was just saying I would appreciate in the future if it comes for a full briefing so I could have all the numbers and the options in my hand. But again, I'm supportive because I've worked with him now for years and he's never asked for more than what was absolutely positively necessary.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm supportive as well. I think this is, the way it's laid out is something that we need to do in order to maintain those professional relationships and have the services that we need. So I'm supportive as well. Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, after I read through the PLRs, I knew it was something that we'd have to do. So, like it or not, it's another mandate, and so it is what it is. I say maintenance level.
All right, great. Jennifer, you got that?
Got it. I will move it over into maintenance 194, 129.
Thank you.
Peter, anything else for us
Nope.
on your budget?
Those were my PLRs.
All right, excellent. Well, appreciate everything, and let us know if you need anything else between now and the end of the year.
I will obviously do so.
Thank you, Peter.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
All righty. Then next, I think we're moving into public health.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. Okay, let's get the right camera going here.
Hi, Dave. I'll go ahead and put the special funds screen up so we can see
Here we go.
your funds. So we'll begin with community services health. We have the 2023 maintenance level budget as of right now is $642,899 in beginning fund balance estimated. The revenues are estimated at $2,973,742. And that brings our total estimated revenue $3,616,641. And that amount does not include the transfer in of the policy level request of $376,255. Expenditures, salaries and benefits are estimated at 2,657,689. Operating is estimated at 958,952. And total expenditures, 3,616,641. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you for your requests. Unless you want to go over mental health, Fund 164 as well. It has no PLRs.
Right. So basically, it's just basically standard budget. No changes on that one. So should be fairly easy.
Yeah, that one, the beginning fund balance is estimated at 1,396,736. Total revenues estimated at 1,411,736. The total salaries and benefits are estimated at 112,333. The operating expenditures are estimated at 1,348,206. And ending fund balance is estimated at 1,347,933 for total expenditures 2,808,472. So going back up to community services. Oh, we also have Fund 145. I forgot about the Clean Water District, which is fairly new. I think we began that one last year. We have an estimated beginning fund balance of 90,000, revenues of 190,000, and total operating of 190,153. Total estimated ending fund balance of 89,847. And that's a fairly simple fund. No salaries and benefits there at this point. So going back to health, I'll let you take it from here, Dave.
Okay, so to kind of talk about the Clean Water District for just a second, the funds are there. We have been using at this point FPHS funding until that account got built up, because that's, like Jennifer said, it's a new account for the county, and we've not positioned people into that yet to give that account some time to grow. Plus, we've had, like I said, we've had dedicated funding through FPHS for that particular piece. On community health, on the 376, 255, that's our county contributions. And so we're in the process right now of coming back out of COVID into a place where we used to use county contributions in a way that we haven't the last few years with COVID, because COVID really kind of supplanted a lot of that stuff. And we just had a conversation amongst all of us directors last night that with FPHS expanding its definitions, some of the things that we used to use this for, we won't be using it for in the same amount. So for example, this fund always used to pay for communicable disease work, which was not funded in any other rate. It's now funded to the tune of like $85,000. So we can take some of this off. What this will cover though is matches to grants. It covers unreimbursed expenses, overhead expenses, some things we can't capture, health officer, part of my salary, and it may be used as WIC comes online until WIC gets up on its own. So this fund in the past was as much as 780,000. It went to as low as 0. We're back up to 376, and we'll probably be drawing from this next year in a way that we haven't for the last few years because of COVID. So I think it will see a more traditional spend out of that account.
And Dave, you also had several employees that were earmarked as temporary, excuse me, grant funded employees. And so that funding has now, it was COVID, I believe.
Right.
And now it is changed to the FPHS. Is that right?
So those positions that were temporary COVID funded positions. I think we're going to action agenda on that next week to transition those over to FPHS funding. So FPHS funding now has 20 different categories that we can slot people into. One of those being life work, which is $386,000. We have money for communications, money for epidemiology. So those employees will be transitioning out of the COVID funding, which ends, some of it ends this month, the rest of it ends December 31st. So they're accounted for in this next year's budget, but they're gonna be funded from a different source.
And then the 376,255 transfer, I know we have that in the 2022 budget. And Mark and I wanted to meet with you, Dave, to understand how that fits into your billing for this year, and then how that fits into your estimated 2023 beginning fund balance and all of that. Just kind of an overview so that we can understand all of that.
Yeah.
With that statement, Jen, are you asking us to hold off on anything on this, or where are you at on that?
I mean, I think, I mean, they turned in a balanced budget utilizing the 376,255 for this year. And I think there's a reasonable explanation of how it fits in. So no, I'm not asking to hold off. I just, I mean, I'm comfortable moving that into maintenance, you know, with the understanding that we will get a picture of how that's fitting in. So hopefully that's clear. No, I don't want you to hold off. I just want to understand it better.
Okay, so now,
Oh,
go ahead.
please go.
On the temp position, requesting that it be made permanent. Based on what is the funding? Is it a grant funded?
No, FPHS funding. And FPHS is not a grant. It's part of our con, which
Yeah.
it's a contract deliverable. And you know, given what the legislature could do to us this year, the funding is guaranteed at least through the end of 2023. What happens in the legislative session to the 23-24 budget may be a different thing, but we're solid through the end of 2023.
So if we did approve it, you'd be comfortable with putting an earmark on there to check it yearly to make sure the funding was available for that specific position?
Oh yeah, so I mean, with any of our grant positions, they're subject to the big areas of how, when and how you get grants and how much you're in the grants. So we look at those all the time. For example, today we were looking at someone who is overspending their grants and how can we shift money around? So we're not going to fill, we were looking to do another position. We're probably not going to do another position this fall. We're going to rotate that money into a current position in order to make sure that that position has enough funding for one full FTE. So those things we look at all the time, but a yearly check-in, absolutely. I mean, probably be best to do that in July once we have, you know, whatever the legislature comes out with in that end of the fiscal year for the state time period.
And just listening to the legislators that, you know, because 'tis the season, they are making sure that health is at the top of the list of their priorities. So I'm comfortable with doing this but just monitoring.
Yeah, so I mean, we still have funds in FPHS that aren't allocated through the budget. We've held those back because we have, first of all, if we grow, where do we go? So Mark and I have been talking about what of those things can we do and maybe off them to another organization. And then we just have to do a spending authority, you know, do a budget amendment, do, you know, get the additional spending authority to access those funds.
Mark, are you comfortable with moving the 376, 255 over, or did you want to get a better explanation first when we sit down with Casey and Dave?
Oh, I'm comfortable moving it forward. I definitely would like to have that conversation with Dave and Casey, though. It's just that we weren't able to schedule it before this meeting, so that was the difficulty of it. But yeah, I would love to get a better understanding of where the general fund dollars go and what do they actually support, and is it truly grant match, or is it covering some of our administrative costs that aren't allowable under other programs? So.
Good discussion. I think more to come, but I would be comfortable moving that over as well.
Same.
Thank you. Dave, did you want to talk about the mental health tax fund at all?
No, I think that's pretty much a maintenance fund at this point. And we have some that we have not pulled down, and I'm going to talk to Casey on where we are at with that for this current budget year that we haven't accessed, and make sure that the plan is in place to make sure that gets spent too. It needs to go where it needs to go, and I need to know why it hasn't been pulled down so far. So let's just leave it at a maintenance level.
Okay.
There's no shortage of need for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That felt relatively easy.
What did we decide on the position?
Temp to an FTE. I think we're still holding off on the positions, aren't we?
Well, it's coming to action agenda, so you'll see that next week.
Oh, is this a position that we talked about already at a briefing?
Yeah, they're the four positions from the COVID team, moving them over from COVID to FPHS funding.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and those positions are included in this budget. And part of them would be funded with the 376, 255, possibly.
So what is the PLR then, just to change it from temp to permanent, but we're already saying that we're going to do that with our vote next week?
Yeah, so in this year's budget, we had 376, the same amount in this year's budget as is going into next year's budget. So it's just kind of moving the color of money around.
No, I'm talking about the movement of the FTE from temp to full-time.
Yeah, that's correct. It's going from temp COVID funded, which runs out, to FPHS, which is a permanent fund set by the legislature.
And that's one that we just talked about, and we agreed to put it on the agenda for passage.
Yeah.
At that rate of full-time. And we told you then that we wanted to keep an eye on it for budget purposes in the future. That's the same one.
Yep.
And then personally, I think that's maintenance. Then we already set it forward. Even though it isn't passed yet, we're the ones that requested that it be put on the agenda to move forward with consensus of the commission.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll move that over into maintenance, and Mark and I will schedule a meeting with Casey and Dave when they're available, hopefully this month or early November, to talk about the 376, 255 and how that's used.
Is it 376 or 367?
76.
Yeah.
So our note is just transposed.
And we do have Dr. Gardner here. This is her first time listening into a budget session. So she is here on camera and in Mason County for the week, here in my office with me.
Hey, Dr. Gardner, you want some more money?
What would I do with more money, Randy?
Yeah, I like you a lot more every time you speak.
Yeah, Carrie, we still need to go for our walk.
Okay, that's all I have, commissioners.
Great. All right, Dave, thank you. Thanks, Dr. Gardner.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. And next, do we have the district court next?
District Court is next.
And can somebody buzz Patsy?
I believe Diane is doing that.
All right. Well, let's take a, let's just pause for a few minutes, and then if you need to get up and stretch your legs, we can do that, and we'll keep an eye out for district court.
Okay.
Judge?
Hi, Your Honor.
You're muted, Your Honor.
How's that?
Even better.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Thanks for hopping on here a couple of minutes early. We appreciate it. We're clipping right along this afternoon, so flexibility is appreciated. So we can go ahead and dive right in, Jennifer, and you can go ahead and get us started.
Yeah, so looking at district court, they have estimated revenues for 2023 of $852,300. They have estimated salaries and benefits of $1,342,779. Estimated operating expenditures at $164,628 for total expenditures of $1,507,407. And they have 12.2 FTEs. And currently their PLR ask is $123,915. And I'll turn it over to district court.
Before you do, Jennifer, I can try and look it up real quick, but do you have another accounting line there that shows what the actual revenues were for 22 and 21? I thought you might have it hidden back there.
Yeah, I haven't added in June of 2022 into this spreadsheet yet, but I do have the detail on that.
No, that's good enough. That's what I needed. Is just what you brought me right now.
Okay.
So we're showing $150,000+ reduction in revenue. So that's what I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about before I asked it. I was just going off of long-term memory. So thank you. That's what I needed.
Oh, you're welcome. Oops.
And I would say there's several reasons if you're interested why. Maybe
I am.
you already know. Well, there's several reasons. Number one, filings have gone down. I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but I'm sure if you need that, Patsy can get that information to you. Secondly, there's been some changes in the law. So I think everybody heard about the Pierce versus DOL, which basically now means that no longer do people put their license in jeopardy by not paying their infractions. So a lot more people are not paying their infractions. We also, with changes in the rules and laws, we're having to be much more allowing the waiving and forgiving of legal financials when people are indigent. I would say those are probably the three primary reasons. Patsy, if you can think of anything else or anything where what I said was wrong, please feel free to jump in.
No, I think that pretty accurately measures it. I think the primary reason is the fact that showing indigency waves our fees aren't as high or imposed at this time because of the new ruling.
I would probably, I'm going to be snide about it, but I could probably tell you that if this trend continues, someday this isn't going to really happen, but sometimes it seems like we're heading that direction. They're going to start requiring the courts to pay the litigants. So anyway,
it's only funny because it's possible.
It's not really funny. I get the fact that again, you can't set people up to fail and all that, but we've really gone well past the point where it's pretty much not wholesale, but getting there, where the courts are supposed to be forgiving fees and again, there's no license consequences if you're failure to pay as an infraction. So as a result, we have that. We also have other situations which can spill into it. We have bench warrants. There's only a few types of bench warrants where the jail is able to accept them. So there are a lot of people out there that can ignore the court because there's no way, they know there's not going to be any way to get people before the court unless they commit the right kind of felony or something, or another domestic violence. But I've noticed our revenues have been going down, and those are the primary reasons.
Thank you.
So, well, want me to move on to where we're asking, we once again are asking to be considered for a deputy court administrator position for really the same reasons we spoke of last year. And and the reason is we don't have anybody else that can do Patsy's job because it violates the union contract. We need someone else who can be considered management. There's a lot of things that she currently is not able to get to anymore that she should be, and that includes training, evaluations, and what have you. And there is now, starting in January, court administrators are going to be under the same obligation judges are under to go through formalized education every year. There's 15 hours a year like the judges.
Yes, and it's for limited courts of limited jurisdiction administrators,
So
the
that's-
ARLJ 14.
So what's happening is there's more and more that the court administrators are being expected to do. And we're in a position where, again, if we do not, if something were to happen, let's assume Patsy decided I take this job and shove it or whatever. I haven't pushed her that yet, but I'm working on it. Not really. Or something happens to her, whatever, or she just retires. There's not going to be anybody else who really knows every aspect of her job, nor can they be taught because union members cannot be doing management tasks that violate the contract, from what as I understand it. So that is something we would ask you to consider looking into. I know we asked last year, it didn't happen, but we're renewing the request this year. The other area that we have is we're asking for an increase on the interpreter budget. And that really comes, I believe that was it.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
number 3.
That's going up as well. And to a certain degree, there's not much we can do about it. I mean, Spanish interpreters, we probably would have a little more leverage because there's a fair number of Spanish interpreters. When you start getting into indigenous languages, we're dealing with some where there's like one person in the whole United States that speaks a language that anybody knows of. And they pretty much get to call their price, or we don't get to hear the case. And we do have to hear the case. It's mandatory. We provide interpreter services, people who do not understand English. It goes to very fundamental due process that people understand the proceedings. So those are the main areas that we have bringing to your attention. And if you have questions, I'm more than happy to do my best to answer them.
Mr. Chair, may I? So Your Honor, you say that there's a case reductions. Do we have a percentage or anything you can share with us?
I do not. I'm sure that Patsy could get that to you.
Yeah, Patsy, if you wouldn't mind showing us the case reductions.
I do want to make clear that does not translate into we have people here wondering if there's anything they can do or what have you. We still have plenty to keep us busy, but for the time being anyway, case reduction have been occurring and we're not getting as many cases filed. One issue, I think it might have something to do with it when you talk about the State Patrol. According to Sergeant Atkinson, we should have not we, but the State Patrol detachment is supposed to have 10 troopers working in Mason County. Right now they have 6. They're down 40%. And that's not unique to Mason County, to my understanding. That's we're talking about law enforcement, all that. We have a shortage of them, and it poses a real problem, in my opinion. Not that it's directly the court's concern, but I'll just make the observation. very large percentage of the DUIs we do get are not DUIs where people got pulled over because they got caught drinking and driving. It's responding to accidents. And that means our roads are nowhere near as safe as they should be. And it was told by Sergeant Atkinson that because of the shortage, they don't even have a trooper on the road between 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., which just happened to be, at least when I was a deputy prosecutor, and I handled thousands upon thousands of DUI cases. Those were the prime times for people to stop and arrest drunk drivers. So it's not really happening nearly as much as it should. So that's one area where it's probably why we don't have as many violations. I think also part of it is a change in law concerning Pierce v. DOL, the fact that there's no licensing consequence if you get an infraction, choose not to pay it or show up. I think this is speculation on my part. This may not be true, but I have to think there are going to be a lot of law enforcement officers who are going to say, why bother? So those are some things we've been struggling with. But we can get you an idea how much our filings are down. I don't know for a fact it's going to stay down or whatever. It's hard to say. It depends really how many law enforcement officers we have and what they choose to do.
Do you have a copy of, Randy, do you have a copy of the financial analysis that was submitted?
Not right with me, no.
Okay, because on page 6, I did our workload indicators.
Okay.
Which shows our 2019, 2021, and our projected 2022 filings.
Okay.
So if those numbers aren't sufficient, then
No, those will be sufficient. I'll go ahead and I'll look at that. Do you have a percentage difference that you can see right in front of you?
I don't have a percentage difference. No, it didn't percent it out. But for a total filings, and this would cover everything the court files, anywhere from traffic to small claims and parking tickets.
Yes.
We went from 2021 of 5846 total. We're looking at about 5482.
Okay, so it's a
That's
small
just
it's a small difference, not a.
It's a small difference, correct?
Okay. My next question is also, I guess, more of a comment. The interpreters, I know that we increased that. I think over the last couple of years, we've been increasing that each time. I'd like to ask you to please consider looking if you're allowed to within your venue, because you may not, you're limited on what you can do being courts. I understand that. The hospitals have taken to having contracted out. It's a computerized system where they actually get a live person in different areas for each and every language that comes up. They put it into the computer. It pings the people that speak that language. They come up a computer screen and they talk face to face. That may save us some money in the long run because we keep increasing this amount. That's going to be a huge amount we're talking for interpreters now, where it may be able to be contracted out much, much cheaper and have somebody readily available at the drop of a hat.
What I can tell you is we can certainly look into that. We do make a use of language line, but it's not favored by the court system, and we use language line only as a last result. We can look at this other,
and we may have to buy you some capital, put a capital improvement for the machines and stuff. But it's a completely different animal. You're literally have somebody face to face that you're talking with and stuff now.
Right.
A live interpreter. They just may not be in the room.
Are they court certified or court registered?
That's why I say I'm sure they would be if they're using it for the hospitals now. I'll bet you anything, and we'll just have to find out. But it sure would be easier because you have so many different ones you have to reach out to, and I know that. It'd be nice to have no wrong door. They come in, you put the button for the language that they have, and it pings the person somewhere, within their establishment to speak that language fluently.
So, but there are and the judge can jump in anytime, but I do believe there's times in which we have to have the interpreters present in the courtroom.
Understood. Yep. My other comment, Your Honor, is you made a comment of Patsy not being able to do the job because it's management, but you wanted to bring in somebody into a managerial position to do it. That wouldn't work, because if she can't do it, they can't. But I do want to tell you that you've got my attention on another point that you made, and I think we should have a longer discussion about this. Regardless of what we do in this budget, we should be talking about succession planning in your department, and it would be a mistake for us not to. So when you brought that up, I can't deny that, and I wanted just to let you know that I heard you on that, and I think that's a strong discussion point.
Right, and I want to be clear, we're on the, I'm not saying that she's not able to get to everything that she's having to do. That's one of the reasons why we want essentially a deputy administrator in order to assist with that. But the succession planning is part of what that is. So.
Thank you. That's what I had, commissioners.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Netherland. Yeah, for my part, we have been holding off on the FTE decisions until we've gone through all of the office's requests, and we'll handle those at the end of the budget. But supportive of the interpreter services increase, and see that as something that's needed for your office, regardless moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Kevin, you cut out. I didn't hear quite what you said.
Oh yeah, I said we're going to give you $15 million. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, that's on
Well,
record.
Right. Patsy.
That was one commissioner. That was one commissioner.
So $15 million. You can blame Commissioner.
Patsy, what he didn't tell you though is there's Zimbabwe dollars that might get you
Yeah.
a Coke.
I was going to say, we need that interpreter now.
No, what I had said, Patsy, was that, just we've been holding off on the FTE decisions until we've run through all of the department's requests. And so we'll be wrapping that up probably, next week or so, or whenever Jennifer wants it finished. But I am supportive of the interpreter request.
Thank you. That's the part I missed.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
A question, I'm sorry, one more question. Usually you put in for some type of a training. Is that already just included in your stuff now, or because I don't see that now?
No, this is something that's new. That's their court administrators are going to be required to do starting January. So they'll have to go through the same. It'll be the same type of training system that the judges go through.
Okay, well, is that included in here? Because I don't see it here.
Yes, no, I calculated out the training at least for next year. Part of it is ARLJ 14 is going to be mandated training for courts of limited jurisdiction designee as appointed by the presiding judge is basically how it reads.
Yeah. Jennifer, do they have that in their budget?
I'm going to be grandfathered in because I'm so old, and have all the training basically under my belt already. There is certain sessions I have to go to, but yes, even I believe that the training is basically calculated in there now. I did not have to increase my travel or registrations for training.
One thing that has helped us is the fact that the courts still are not.
We're doing a lot of it virtually.
Right.
If you go up,
there's travel 4,500, and then yeah,
So you must have it
under
in travel.
miscellaneous.
travel and miscellaneous. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. As long as it's in there.
Yeah, I didn't think we needed it.
No.
To increase those lines.
All right, you got it. And I love having a Jennifer. She can.
Yeah, I know, right?
Every department should have one.
I know.
Okay, so so we're going to move the 8,000 into maintenance level and then hold off on the FTE request. Is that what I am understanding, commissioners?
Yep.
Is everyone in agreement on the 8,000?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
So is there going to be another meeting as far as addressing the FTE after everybody's? I mean,
Yeah.
am I gonna get
Yeah,
something that says a yes or no?
Yeah. For sure. We'll make sure that you know what's going on.
Okay,
We won't
appreciate
leave
that.
out of the process. Yep.
And if it is a no, and I'm not saying it's going to be, but if it is, could you please prepare some type of conversation for succession planning to have with the commission?
Will do.
Great. Well, thanks, Judge and Patsy. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Bye. So I emailed Jim and let him know that it might be around 3:30 that we would be done. And it looks like we're way ahead of schedule. Let me see if he responded. I did not get a response from him.
That was unusually short.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Well, and commissioners too, if you notice, there are no PLRs for Superior Court either. So there's not going to be a ton for us to consider there.
Yeah, their revenue actually increased quite a bit in juvenile and in Superior Court. And so most of their increases in costs are covered by grant increases. So that's why there's no PLRs there.
So it's grants and not fees like district. So district.
At least in juvenile. In Superior, I forget what the increase was. I think it was a mixture. Yeah, in Superior, it looks like it's not a lot of grants. It's just fee increases. But yeah, juvenile was definitely grant increases.
So they did not put it in their request, but they had another position that still hadn't been filled. Do we remember what that was?
For juvenile?
No, Superior Court.
Superior.
In their 3-phase planning.
Wasn't that like Jim's assistant or something like
There was
that?
an additional person.
Yeah, and there
administration.
was an additional.
Yeah.
But yet I didn't see it in their request. I just wonder if they just skipped it, dropped it, or don't need it.
I don't think that they dropped it. I think if you remember, we actually brought in an administrative person to help out with some of the lower level duties, but there's definitely still a need for help on the administrative side. So up in the, obviously providing oversight over both juvenile and Superior Court is something that is challenging.
I hate to ask somebody to increase their request, but I'd sure like to brief on it during budget and see what we're deciding.
Well, Superior Court will be up at 4 o'clock, so we can ask them.
Yeah, but they may not be prepared to talk about it unless you send them a text.
I guarantee you Jim would be prepared, but I'll give him a call real quick.
Okay. You're right. So Mark, just looking at the picture that's in front of us, just a reminder, you might want to touch base with the coroner, Madam Coroner, and just let her know continuing with forensic pathology.
Hey, Randy, I actually have Jim on the phone right now, so can I get back to you in just a
no
second?
problem.
Sorry. Commissioner Shooting, I got a hold of Jim, and Judge Goodell may be ready before 4 o'clock, so he's gonna give him a call and see if he can jump on. He's actually working from home today. He's got a big decision that he needs to make, and so he's kind of doing his research and working on it from home. So he's available to take a break. Did we say we were going to break for a while?
No, just well, I mean, it depended on their availability, but if
Okay.
they can go now, I think would prefer to go now.
Yeah, they're gonna jump on as soon as he can get a hold of Judge Goodell.
Great.
And I think that it's going to be, I'll let them give you the deal, but I think Judge Goodell is going to kind of talk about the state of the court. And there's some future things that they're going to be asking about, but they didn't put anything in PLRs this year for a reason. And hopefully they'll kind of give us an idea of some of the challenges that the court's facing right now and what they may be coming forward with in the future.
That's a good teaser, Mark.
Hey, just trying to keep you guys on your toes.
So Mark, when I was interrupting you on your phone call, what I was bringing up is that pathology, forensic pathology, that we should probably contact her and have her start working that into an actual contract. I 100% agree. 100% agree. The tricky part of it is there's not a lot of pathologists out there. And a pathologist is limited to the number of autopsies that they can do within a year.
So she did talk to me a little bit about that. That was the reasoning behind why Kitsap said, hey, we're cutting you off because we had used too many and they had used too many themselves. And so they were concerned whether they're going to be able to make it through the end of the year. But I agree with you, Commissioner Netherland, that when we start to look at the volume of dollars that we would be paying neighboring jurisdiction, in addition to the transportation costs and time that it takes her and her on-call staff to deliver, because they basically have to, there's no room in Thurston County for them to hold on to any of our customers. And so we deliver them, a pathology is performed, and then we bring them back home.
And just in general conversations, we might want to look at what refrigeration costs for the Belfair facility.
We're actually looking at it. Kelly Frazier is looking into that because, I also need to find some space for our facility staff before April of 2023. And I'm kind of trying to keep track of all of the facility type needs that we might have coming up here soon. And that may be a solution that could be compiled together. Kelly Frazier even offered to become a deputy coroner and help out where necessary. But yeah, I'm not sure that all of his facilities guys would be willing to perform that function.
That, although it's funny when we say it, that's not necessarily a bad idea. And I don't just mean with Kelly, I mean, we have others, and that would alleviate a lot of the issue with the fire departments.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
when I was younger and I worked for the power company, when I did the work of a meter reader, it was one thing. When I did the work of a technician where I would replace meters, I was paid a little differently. That may be something that can be worked into contracts with unions as well. And I'm just spitballing on that, but it's sure ain't a bad idea to have a half a dozen people wanting to do a little overtime or something like that.
Yeah, and our facilities guys are really mobile. They tend to be located in warehouse type operations where it would be, and then really, looking for somewhat of an industrial type space for them where they have the power needs that they require, and as well as the facility needs in terms of bays for some of their equipment. The power that is going to be required in a facility like that would probably be also conducive to having some type of a cold storage there.
Yeah.
So he's actually looking into that. So I think that's a good thing. Oh, here's Judge Goodell.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Jim. Thank you. Appreciate your flexibility. We're kind of clipping right along today, so having to adjust on the fly, and just appreciate your ability to hop on a little bit early.
Yeah.
So with that, I think Jennifer, if you wanted to go through anything or just turn it over to Judge Goodell or Jim, that would be fine too.
I can go over their revenues and expenditures in juvenile and then in Superior Court.
Okay.
So in juvenile, they have estimated revenues for 2023 of $1,366,600. And then in their salaries and benefits, they have estimated $1,982,813. Their operating expenditures, $140,628, for total expenditures of $2,123,441. They have 19 full-time employees and they have no PLRs. Their revenue is increasing by 8.11% over 2022, and their overall expenditures are increasing by 4.74% from 2022. So in Superior Court, they have revenues estimated at $108,020. They have salaries and benefits of $1,050,755. Operating expenditures of $209,816. Total expenditures $1,260,549. and they have 8.58 budgeted FTEs. That's because they have an odd combination of like a allocation for one of their employees is in Fund 160, the Law Library Fund. They also have Family Court, which has revenues and expenditures of 2,500, and then they have Therapeutic Court. Revenues and expenditures match $776,228 on their revenue and expenditure side. We're off by $1 there. I'll fix that later. They have 4.22 FTEs in Therapeutic Court. So Jim and Judge, I'll let you take over from here.
Well, we probably don't have much to say. We don't have a lot of increases. Most of our increases that we have asked for were really based upon what our history was. Nothing of any great significance, I don't believe, in that. But we're willing to answer any questions that the commission may have with regard to our budget or operations.
Judge, Mark had mentioned that there were maybe some things that were upcoming, for some planning at the court that you might want to include us in or give us some preview of and have our consideration. Can you fill us in?
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. We are experiencing. Not too long ago, we brought to your attention, in fact, there was additional funding that was dealt with the Minor Guardianship Act coming into play. It was a whole big rewrite of third-party custody, what used to be third-party custody cases, and it all went from like a family law type of an approach to a guardianship type approach. It was an exceedingly time-consuming operation to try to figure out how to work through the new statutes, and it appears that things have now settled in, that we have an understanding, at least at our level. There's going to be a whole lot of work that's going to be done either by the legislature or the Court of Appeals, working through how these statutes play together. Now that is somewhat resolved, we are now faced with the new rendition of a rewrite of an area of our court, and that is in our protection order world. Currently, beginning in July, a whole new protection order statute went into effect, which took all the various types of protection orders, from domestic violence, restraining orders, sexual assault, stalking. There's a host of different types of protection orders that were all consolidated into one set of statutes under one title. And with that, there are a host of new issues that we are grappling with, such as appointing guardian ad litems to represent minors who are respondents in those type of actions. Maybe one minor against another minor. Minors can bring these actions when they are 15 years or older under the new statute, and they always have been able to be represented by a parent as a petitioner. And then there is the potential of having to appoint a parent or an attorney for a petitioner in these actions as well. Well, funding for those is unclear. Secondly, we don't know what the nature of the increase is, but we have seen that over the last several months, there's been a profound increase in the amount of protection orders that are coming to our court. One of the changes that occurred in the new statute is that the jurisdiction by the district court and the superior court is primarily concurrent jurisdiction now, except for some very limited areas where a matter can only be brought into the superior court. Previously, the matters were to be brought in the district court unless there were those areas, those few areas, 6 areas that would come into the Superior Court. So it really broadened the number of cases that can come into the Superior Court now. What we've seen over the last several months is that increase coming into our courts. I checked the district court, they have not really seen a decline. And so we're really puzzling over why there's such an increase. One thing that we don't have is a Tuesday morning protection order docket. What we have is a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday protection order dockets. Those dockets can take as little as a half hour or as much as 5 hours, depending upon the number of people that are on the dockets. We are now contemplating whether we need to open up our Tuesday mornings for another docket. Well, the issue with that is that we don't have a judicial officer assigned or able to be assigned to that. And we're looking potentially at our court commissioner to fill that gap. And so we are now just in the consideration world of this right now. We haven't made any decisions, but if we do decide to go to a Tuesday morning docket, then we may be coming back before the commission to ask to increase the number of FTEs associated with our court commissioner, Teresa Butler. I think that I don't remember the exact FTEs right now. Jen, you might be able to help me out, but I think she's at 37 hours a week, and we could use that 3 hours in order to fill that Tuesday morning docket if we choose to go there. So that's something that's on the horizon. Also, as you're aware, we continue to talk about our phases of review. We appreciate it and do appreciate the additional personnel that we received recently. We were able to hire someone to assist us with court administration. That has her job really absorbed a whole lot of the issues that we were experiencing. We're not done with our review though, because as we make our moves, we take a look at where we are and how we can most effectively continue. And specifically, I'm still concerned about Jim's job and his abilities to manage under the structure that we have right now. But that's something that is going to have further review, just like we said we would, and we're working through those. So, Jim, you may have other items that you might want to address.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe one thing I did want to bring up would be commissioners at 92.5% of an FTE. And so when Jennifer was talking about the, some of the funky FTEs, the commissioner is one of those. And there is quite a relationship between our protection order docket that Judge Goodell has been talking about and our ex parte docket in the afternoon. And we've seen a steep incline in the amount of cases in the afternoons because that's, can be where temporary orders are talked about and brought in. And so there's kind of this working relationship between those two dockets, and it's been pretty busy, and I don't know if it's pandemic or whatnot, but the bill that was the rewrite of the protection orders was 319 pages long. It was a massive bill, and understandably and rightfully so, it was meant to be a way to streamline the process to make it better for our customers. And so these are people that are feeling like they need to be protected, from things and have chaos going on in their life, and trying to reduce the barrier of coming to court, navigating. Do I go to district court, municipal court? Do I go to superior court? What forms do I fill out? And it was all over the place. And so they tried to combine it all into one. And, this is my own personal opinion, but I think that in doing that, again, rightfully so, to do that, it's in the world we live in today where things are, there's so much access and easy access. I think we're getting a lot of people that have the ability now to file on these, and I don't know if we're going to, see it go down. I think this might be the new world we live in. And the other piece that's coming up is in January. The bill talks about that. Courts, superior courts have to accept filings 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, either electronically. I'll just focus on the electronic part of that. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens come January of 2023. If we're going to come in on Mondays and there's going to be a load of electronically filed petitions for protection orders. And so we're really in kind of a new world with that right now. And so I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. But I can't think of anything else, Commission and Your Honor.
And to piggyback what Jim just talked about on those electronic filings, along with that comes another thing that we haven't really figured out, although we're contemplating how to deal with it. But there is also mandated a process where it doesn't say the clerk or the court, but either the clerk or the court will have to notify the petitioner electronically through some sort of a text message, email, whatever, anytime something is filed on their case. And there's nobody out there saying, here, do this, or providing any funding or anything that we're aware of. And so we are just starting to work with the clerk's office, trying to figure out how to deal with that. Fortunately, we do have a program already that we've been utilizing in our criminal justice side, where it is court reminders, and we found that very effective to help reduce the number of failure to appears, where they are provided a text message if they sign up, where there's a hearing coming up. When there's a scheduling hearing, our staff manually puts in for each person that's signed up their calendar. So on the morning of the hearing, I think it's like the day before the hearing and the morning of the hearing, they get a text message saying you have a hearing. So we found it very effective in our criminal justice world, because a lot of those people that find themselves in those situations sometimes struggle with organizational skills, and that really helps that. But what I'm saying is that we might be able to find another module, order another module with that same company, and then utilize it for much the same thing. The trouble is, who's going to input this information? I don't know, but there's going to be money associated with that somewhere. We just don't know how it's going to play out. So those are some of the things on the horizon that we can foresee right now. So with all that, are there any questions?
A quick one. What's the position of AOC? Are they going to help fight for funding? Are they going to help look for, because it's not just Mason County, right? It's statewide. Are they going to look for a program that works in conjunction? I mean, you'd probably want the prosecutor's office tied in, clerk's office, public defender's maybe.
I'll talk quickly about it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because some counties have already have e-filing or electronic filing and have gone outside to private vendors and have maybe all this capability or some of this capability, and other counties, and it tends to be the smaller counties that don't have this. And I know that AOC has the Odyssey system, which is a Tyler technology, and but I haven't heard of any funding going towards that. And they are struggling. Last I heard, I think they're down like 30 IT positions, and it's a struggle for them to get, just some of the basics done. This protection order bill had, I don't know how many redone or new forms, but it was in the order of dozens, I would say. And AOC was supposed to have those done by the end of this year. And I don't know if they're going to get them all redone. So we're kind of using some outdated forms. Some of them are. So all that to say is I'm not sure what kind of support AOC is going to be able to give to us. Certainly right now, I would say the Board of Judicial Administration, the BJA, is all levels of courts. Their executive team, this is the time of year that they're working on legislative asks and all that, and I'm not sure where they're at with that.
Yeah, we just had a couple of the Superior Court judges come on for our WASAC virtual assembly, and I think it's kind of neat because you can see that the questions that I was asking them, you can see that they're ready to work with us so that we can help you guys too. And so if you guys need help, please reach out, because I can get WASAC involved and probably a lot of other commissioners too.
Sure. I think that, yeah, this is definitely a statewide conversation of mandates that happen, and the local jurisdictions trying to figure out how to make it happen. And yeah, you guys certainly are a piece of that, trying to figure out how to feed all the bears.
Yeah, there's a lot of bears out there.
Mark, go ahead.
Jim and Judge Goodell, we also have Deborah Wingia, who's our lobbyist, that is been super effective and is definitely willing to step right in and help with continuing to push Mason County's message to the state legislature also. So as long as we get that message succinct and clear as to what we need and what we'd like to see, then I think she'd be a great resource for us to use.
Yeah, thank you for that. And again, you know, we're just diving into this portion. We've been dealing with the first portions, which has been, there's some significant rewrites in how we are supposed to handle things. And just trying to be on top of all of those different changes has been a real struggle. But and then when we look at the, you know, on the horizon, what's next, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
Right. So Jim, was that 300 additional pages of rewrite?
The bill itself was 319 pages long, and it incorporated lots of different areas of statute, trying to put it all in one place, because, you know, some of these different types of protection orders were done in stages over the course of you know, different decades. And so you know, again, I think, you know, understanding that the effort was to try to streamline this, but it, you know, it's pretty complex trying to make that happen. And you know, and then trying, you know, for our legal minds, trying to unpack, you know, what does this really mean? And some parts may contradict other parts, and really trying to make that work and can be real tricky. And again, you know, this is happening statewide for all of us courts.
Thanks.
If you want some light reading, it's House Bill 1320.
Is that the new bill number?
Yeah, that was the one that was passed last year and started July 1 of this year.
It's all codified under RCW 7.105.
Just some light reading.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Not for me. Appreciate your time, Commissioner Netherland.
Nope, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys, good to see you.
Okay. Well, good to see everybody, and
Just
thank you
real
so much
quick,
for your time.
I do want to say thank you to Jennifer. It's always a pleasure working with her through the budget process. It's been awesome having her as a point of contact. Compared to years past, these last few years have been great. So I just wanted you guys to know that from my perspective. So thanks.
Thank you, Jim. It's great working with you too.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Okay. That was our last scheduled workshop for today, Jennifer. Do you need anything else from us, or?
Not at this moment. I think we need to come back and take another look overall at where we're at, maybe next week. So we can try to schedule, or the week after would be okay too, wherever we can fit on the schedule. I do want to just briefly state that I'll be briefing you on Monday, commissioners, about setting the levy hearing for November 22nd. And we need to get that on the action agenda for the 25th in order to have time to advertise that for the 2 weeks that are required by law.
Great. Okay. And then, so Jennifer, you also sent over some information for us to review, some updated information from the treasurer on debt and a couple of other things. So if you have anything else, just feel free to keep sending it our way and we'll take a look at it. And I think we're in a great position right now to be able to come back in another meeting and really finalize things and wrap things up so that we can get that kind of closed out as you approach the levy hearing.
Yeah, great. And I'm going to take another closer look at the beginning fund balance estimate also, and I'll go over that with Mark ahead of bringing it back to you. So just a heads up on that. So thank you very much, you guys.
Great. Commissioners, anything else for Jennifer or Mark before we cut them loose?
No,
We adjourn.
yeah, this has been amazing, and I'll second.
Great. Moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.